Hello and welcome to what will be the first episode of the Awoken podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Rackison, and today our guest will be Allie Gonino, actress and musician. She was born in Texas and began yodeling at a young age, and then dropped out of high school to move to Hollywood, California, where she became a recurring TV show star on such shows that you may be familiar with, called The Lying Game and 10 Things I Hate About You. She joined a girl group and toured the world in America, opening up for such illustrious acts as Justin Bieber. And she's here to tell you in our next conversation about what she's learned from those experiences and from life. And we're going to discuss religion and God and all the fun stuff, coffee enemas, Kundalini yoga, breathing techniques, what we should call the sun if we had to rename it, and a bunch of other interesting, fun, worthwhile topics. I hope you enjoy and benefit from the following conversation. This is the Awoken Podcast.
I think I was probably like 15 when I told my mom, I was like, I think I want to go to LA soon and like really do this because school's just taking up all this like energy and time. And I feel like I'm not learning anything of real true value for my future. So, we had talked about it here and there. And then I remember one day in my sophomore year of high school, just walking out of the school and saying to my mom, like, I'm never going back in that place. And she was like, okay. Oh, I just always knew that I wanted to perform. I've been a
Oh, you
performer
were a
since I was a little
yodeler.
kid.
You were a yodeler.
I did yodel. Yeah. It wasn't my like number
That was the
one
primary thing.
thing. It wasn't the primary thing,
Okay.
but I did some yodeling. Yeah.
I think absolutely that, there is a level of dehumanization that happens when you're interacting with someone just as a screen name,
Exactly.
or, particularly if it's just, like I love hot dog 74 or whatever.
Fully believed in the power of just music to change people's lives and give them hope and save them. And I also wanted to act.
Like
And
alter your consciousness, feel high, sort of yoga. And
but what was really good about sort of taking a wild left-hand turn was I got to release the identity and release my attachment to the mindset that I had around who I was, around where I should be in my career, all these things. I've recounted this memory to my parents and they were like, yeah, that's pretty much what it was. Um, but I didn't cry when I came out. Yeah, I wasn't like a screamer when I came out. I was like, like blinded by the lights and like was struggling to open my eyes. And I was just going like, ooh, ooh, like just kept saying like, ooh, which is kind of how I feel now. I'm just,
hello, we're here with Allie Gonino,
hello.
famous actress, activist, philosopher,
Mm,
and we'll find out the rest. But yes, that was not my voice. um, well, the observer effect is in effect.
yeah.
Weird how you can feel a difference when things are recording.
Uh-huh.
I think in music and just in general, it's like there's some weird like you know
Yeah.
ESP feeling, and then something's
Are you
observing.
feeling your guard going up?
No.
Okay.
No, that wasn't it. It's just more like, whoa, like, someone else or me later in the future might be watching this. There's also that. It's like you in the future listening to it or
Yeah.
whatever.
And
Um,
once it's out on the
just that
internet,
extra awareness
it's
that
out
like
there forever.
if I move, it's being recorded. If I, whatever. If I say this, which I'm saying now, it's being recorded. It's a subconscious realization that, at
I think
times it's
it's
con
conscious.
well, that's the thing. And then it just
I think it's fully
every
conscious.
everything starts in the subconscious. But that's what I'm saying. You can feel that sort of vibe. So yes, this is our first podcast
Little podcast
attempt
test.
test for,
Awoken space.
yeah, the Awoken Space wellness studio and metaphysical gift shop in Malibu. And this is the Awoken podcast. And that's as much as we got. So, no, we have followed out questions. We have lots of questions for Allie. I have researched her for the past 15 minutes. I have to say, I'm not a big TV person. I'm not a big ABC Family person. So I was not a hundred
I'm so
percent.
surprised to hear you say that.
There must be millions. I even asked you once if people recognize you, and you're if if I had seen you on TV, I'm sure I would recognize you because you seem very recognizable.
It's not,
But
yeah, some people recognize and others mostly don't.
well, you haven't done a lot to
So
change. I mean, you could dye your hair purple or something. Less people would probably
it's
recognize.
not that. It's just that, the things that I've been on are only relatively known. I haven't had like, a giant success of a show. Like, you know, I
Everything
don't know.
is relative.
Totally.
There,
Yeah.
there's 9 billion people on the planet.
Yeah, before I left LA in 2020, I was feeling really like not successful because I had been a series regular on two shows and then didn't work for like, I don't know, 5 years, and I was feeling really down on myself. And then I went to Nashville and joined an acting community there, and getting to watch them work and practice, um, and seeing just like how hungry they all were, and none of them had even come remotely close to the level of success that I had, gave me a lot of perspective and made me feel a lot better about the work that I had been blessed enough to get to do. So yeah, it's all relative.
Well, I think the key though, I mean, to being happy though, is just like gratitude, right? So, I mean, whatever your status or stage or, I mean, you can always look at it. I mean, it's very cliche, but the glass is half full or empty or whatever. I mean, you have multi-million dollar rich athletes who are sitting out because they're not getting that extra 5 million guaranteed on their $120 million contract or whatever, and they're upset
Yeah.
about it. I mean, so it's
Well,
really
there's
just
there's a difference between like that and feeling like you've either been completely disposed of by your industry, or like you're not successful anymore, or you're not talented anymore, or you just aren't bringing what the marketplace wants, when you go from having success to like basically radio silence for a while.
this is all just the narrative. I mean, if you change your narrative, your
No,
image.
totally, but when you're actually living it, and you know the let me just say that like I had to get out of LA to come back to being like a normal human thinking person, because the mentality here is not, it's not normal. There's a pressure to always be not only succeeding and getting work, but like constantly like growing and constantly best what you've already done. And it took me having to move away from this place to come back to like a normal way of seeing things because you can just get like really jaded
I mean, your life is
working in
now.
this industry.
The most important thing is to be happy. And of course, I'm just preaching what I should obviously always, take my advice, I'm sure. But, your life is now. You don't wait to be happy. You're not waiting to be successful or something later in life. I mean, you just worry about, each day appreciating, getting up. I mean, a human life is a blessing in itself. I mean, we can see just all the animals on our planet, and then there's all the animals everywhere and all the universes and all the people. I mean, just to have this human life, and then of course we all, it's surreal, I think, to, you know find yourself in American where we think, oh, we've got the best country, the richest economy, and so there's, just cosmic privilege going on here, to use the
Totally.
annoying parlance of the
I
time.
don't know if it's cosmic privilege. It might be, colonialism
Maybe
and having the biggest army in the world.
I'm
It
saying
is it
your
is
human
cosmic
life,
it is cosmic privilege.
your human life, for even beyond the American thing, even the poorest
Totally.
person in the
Yeah.
world. I mean, karma's very complicated, but I mean, just a human life, I think, is quite a blessing. And but we really don't know all the other dimensions and levels, and like what would happen to humans if evolution was allowed to continue for the next thousand of years or whatever. Maybe they look back and be like, oh gosh, thank God I'm not a human. Like I'm some like advanced creature, something. It's like we'll be like dinosaurs to like something one day.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like in a lot of regards or a lot of
Take it a
aspects,
different direction there.
every generation advances and like there are a lot of things that the women even 50 years before I was born, like I'm glad that I didn't have to deal with the stuff that they had to deal with. And I'm sure, hopefully, if humanity continues to, prevail, our grandchildren will hopefully have far better futures. Hard to know. Hard to know with all this climate change
I think
and
also just the
craziness.
what we were talking about privately before the other day, the cognitive dissonance in society. I think, and all of, I mean, just the everything's just been allowed to, like, society allows like mental illness or something, and just like the way that social media is and all the division. So, I mean, I think somehow humanity will survive, but um,
I think there are a
gosh
lot of
knows
factors that
what
go
culture and
into,
what society is going to be like.
but I also think that there are a lot of factors that contribute to the mental health crisis right now. Like a lot of factors. I mean, you know, from the chemicals in our food to the chemicals that they're spraying in the air to the constant uh, wealth gap that we're seeing continue to play out. And yeah, I just think there are less there's like less true community because all of our most of our community now is on social media and online, which does serve a purpose, but being in a true physical community is really, really important to our mental health and our stability and our well-being. And I just feel like we've come a very long way from even whenever I was growing up. Like I didn't grow up with social media. It's just a totally different world. And I think it's gotten a lot worse because a lot of the connection is happening online where people feel safe enough to say horrific things to each other that they would never say in person to another human being. Um, and it's kind of eroded, I think, our trust in each other.
Even though we know there's someone behind the screen, and then yeah, that there's no, you know, consequence of even perceiving someone, in your own vicinity and feeling the reaction that you would feel saying something negative to someone like in their presence, let
Right.
alone um I mean, in an extreme case, you might anger someone to the point where, your physical safety might be in, jeopardy or something like that with the people that, with things that people say online. So, but that shouldn't be. I mean, violence is never the answer. Yet still, I mean, yeah, you're right. It's the Wild West. And then there are instigators, and I think people are in different moods, different days, and
Well,
sometimes
just think about like all the
people take it
psychotropic
out
drugs
on.
people are on too. Like there's so many, like I think the defense of prescription drugs to me, like I do understand and I really do want to try to empathize with people who feel that they absolutely have to rely on prescriptions to manage their mental health. I think some people really do. I chose not to go that way because I didn't want to get addicted. Um, but it's also because I believe that there are holistic ways to remedy certain brain chemical imbalances, uh, and also dealing with relationship. Like I think we have a culture that just wants to like numb right away and is always looking for like a quick fix to end our suffering. And sometimes what that does is rob us of the opportunity to like do the work and go deep and go to the cause. And it kind of does a disservice to go that route because what we could learn in pursuit of an outcome or just learning more about what's making us tick or making us not tick could help other people. I don't really remember. What did you say just before that? That sent me on that tangent.
We were talking about the election.
No, we weren't.
Just no.
uh,
But I do
but
want to
yeah.
circle back at some point and bring it back to the linear progression of your origin story and your career and how
Oh,
you got to
sure.
be where you are now and everything. So we can do that, I guess. It's a segue.
Sure.
All right. So, because I have no idea. I have no idea who you are. We've known each other for a couple of months while you've been working with me with the Awoken space, but
Mm-hmm.
beyond just very quick looking up Allie Gonino on Google or something like that, I really don't know. And I definitely don't know from your perspective. So,
Yeah.
so
Well,
then you're so far in your, the mythology that I've taken from you as your biographer.
the lore.
Uh, I mean, there's the part which you didn't get at, which we need to talk about where the heck you came from. And some of that is in my book of questions that I like your
Where the heck I
childhood,
came from.
yeah, your childhood, whatever. But as far as
Yeah,
what you were saying, just to summarize for our audience here, whoever they may be,
we'll find
is
out.
yes, you were an actress. You
I
actually,
still
I
am.
know. Let me just summarize from what I know from Wikipedia too, because it's fresh in my mind. This is what it says: you dropped out of school
High school.
you dropped out of high school and came to Hollywood
Mm-hmm.
to do acting, and then somehow
And music.
in music. What was the primary intention?
Oh, I just always knew that I wanted to perform. I've been a
Oh, you
performer
were a
since I was a little
yodeler.
kid.
You were a yodeler.
I did yodel. Yeah. It wasn't my like number
That was the
one
primary thing.
thing. It wasn't the primary thing, but I did some yodeling. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, so I grew up in Texas, outside Dallas, like east of Dallas, in a small suburb that was primarily Christian conservative. And at a young age, after going to church a bunch of times, feeling like a lot of it didn't really resonate for me. I kind of I have always felt a strong resistance to religion, even though I think Jesus is a cool teacher and probably was a prophet, who healed people and was a messenger to show us how to live uh, in love with each other. But I always felt like there was like just a cultish nature with Christianity, that really turned me off. So where I found my expression and my identity, and sense of self and value was in being a performer. I discovered I had a talent for playing the violin when I was 7. And then not too long after that, I started singing when the Chicks came out with their debut album, Wide Open Spaces. I was singing to it all the time. Love them. They're also Dallas, Texas gals. So I feel like I had like already had like a strong kinship and relationship to them. And so from a pretty young age, I knew that I wanted to be a touring artist. I fully believed in the power of just music to change people's lives and give them hope and save them. And I also wanted to act. And so when I moved out here when I was 16, so I had done a bunch of performing growing up. And then I think I was probably like 15 when I told my mom, I was like, I think I want to go to LA soon and like really do this because school's just taking up all this like energy and time. And I feel like I'm not learning anything of real true value for my future. So, we had talked about it here and there. And then I remember one day in my sophomore year of high school, just walking out of the school and saying to my mom, like, I'm never going back in that place. And she was like, okay. So my
And you
parents were
moved out
always
here
very
with your
supportive.
parents, or you moved
I
out here?
moved, yeah, with my mom.
Oh,
My dad is an alternative medicine doctor. He does integrative medicine in Texas still has his practice. And so
like
he had to stay.
from what? Like Chinese medicine, or
He's he's a DO, doctor of osteopathy. And essentially it's not Chinese medicine, it's just holistic care, so it's preventative medicine. So there's a strong belief in the right nutrition. Like every new patient that comes to his office goes through a nutrition class where they learn all about how nutrition either helps you live or kills you. um, and there's actually not a lot of education, even within universities nowadays, for doctors around nutrition. And so that's kind of a big issue. But anyway, so nutrition, he believes in nutrition. They also have an IV room, so people can go get hydrogen peroxide IVs, ozone therapy IVs, vitamin D, whatever you need to supplement. Um, he's a big believer in colonics and coffee enemas
oh,
for
hey,
cancer prevention.
must have been fun growing up in that household.
Yeah,
Just
I
kidding.
didn't I didn't start doing coffee enemas until I was an adult, but I do them regularly now.
Yeah.
I love a coffee enema. And it actually originates in yoga. Like it's a yogic practice that has been around for thousands of years. And then Dr. Gerson in the 30s,
I am not too familiar with
what
that.
that is. Yeah.
Yeah. I
So the
mean, an enema is up
yeah,
the rear end and they just pour coffee
yes. So
in the butt.
you intake organic brewed, not grounds,
Like
brewed organic coffee, tepid
like
room
Starbucks.
temp. Don't do it too hot because
Like
you
you go
will
to
hurt yourself.
Starbucks. Like
No, you don't go
Starbucks
to
coffee.
Starbucks. No, it's got to be organic. You brew it at home right before you do
But it's
it.
like coffee that you otherwise would be able to
Would
drink.
drink. Correct.
And
And
instead you put it up the other side where stuff usually
yes.
goes out.
So you take in basically like, those enema bags, you take in a full bag
This will definitely not be our very first episode. No.
and then
That
you
we'll
retain it.
post it later.
Great. Warm people up for the real thing. But the idea is that you retain it, and what the coffee does is it stimulates the liver, and then the liver is able to release toxins. So
Couldn't you
what
just drink
most
it?
no, it doesn't for whatever reason it doesn't work in the same way. I guess because it's going up through the colon and not the
I haven't looked into that area too much.
yeah, I don't really
I don't
know
know
why.
how the anatomy works. I mean, I guess there is there is something to it, obviously. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea, really.
It,
Um,
it's a fascinating
but you
thing
do
for
this.
people to
Okay, so what is the
know about.
benefits that you're noticing?
Um,
Increased
so
energy?
increased energy, one thing it's very good for is if you, let's say you work out and you build up a lot of lactic acid, or even if you just have a high acid uh, lifestyle, like you drink alcohol or smoke cigarettes or eat gluten or whatever, or work out, things that build acid in the body. What a coffee animal will do is help to draw that acid out. And so one of the benefits could be that you feel less pain in your body. And it definitely has done that for me. Um, one of the things about
Are you, I
cancer
mean, where do
is
you
that it
go
can't,
to do that? Are you doing it? I mean,
I do it in my shower, just
you
like
do it to
on the
yourself.
ground. Yeah.
You get,
You can do it in your bath or your shower, just on the ground.
I don't know.
It
It sounds like a very complicated process.
It's not at all. First time is a little weird to like figure it out and do it, but then once you do it, then it's pretty simple. It really is pretty. Oh. Um,
Well, there
but
you
yeah,
go, folks.
it's cancer
Health, you'll get
preventative.
all sorts of really good health advice and tricks and of the trade here.
There you
Uh,
go.
so,
Yeah. So anyway, so we got a little off track, but I moved to LA with my mom. Dad stayed home, and I just started auditioning for. I got into an acting class with Andrew Magarian, Simply Acting. He's still in business and is a great teacher. Got into acting class and then started auditioning and getting like little roles on Nickelodeon shows, Disney, and all that until I started building a resume and went on to do bigger things. And then I was also in a girl group for a little while called the Stunners, which went on tour with Justin Bieber. We opened up for him, and I was in that band for 3 years, and then got my second like series regular offer while I was in that band. And at the time, management was kind of like going off the rails, and I wasn't making any money. So I was like, okay, I think it's like time for me to make a move. But yeah, so I came out with the intention to be an actor and musician, and then got into yoga because I had an injury, a pretty severe neck injury. I started having spinal spasms that took me out of the dance game, and I still needed to find a way to move. So I found yoga, and yoga's been not only a spiritual practice for me, but a way to help um, just sustain, uh, a healthy body and mind. How did you get into yoga? What brought you to yoga?
um, just a general interest, really, in like the spirituality and the mind and consciousness. And I mean, I initially grew up in a family that was not, you know, even holistic. um, we were eating toaster strudels and Egos and, um, you know,
And where did you
all
grow up?
processed foods. And, parents never really questioned religion beyond any, surface, or spirituality beyond the surface of like religion. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but then I got into like Buddhist the Buddhism for Dummies and Taoism for Dummies, like at the my school library, and kind of then I started smoking pot, as a senior in high school. I
Always.
found out my dad had been a pothead like my whole life and had hid it from me. And then yeah, anyway, so I was kind of interested in consciousness, and then I took psychedelics in my 1 year of university. So then I moved to California, and like I discovered the Esalen Institute, and I started taking classes there on shamanism, and then
And where did you move from again?
Tibetan
Where did
Buddhism. What?
where did you grow up?
In DC.
In DC.
I mean,
Okay.
I was born in Miami, and then when I moved to DC when I was 7 years old.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, then I took a really powerful course on uh, a Tibetan Buddhist meditation practice called Mahamudra, which is one of the emptiness meditations like Dog Chin. Um, and it's very transformative. That's the idea. It kind of reprograms you on a subconscious level to perceive everything as non-dualistic and everything, and it's something that settles in over time. But anyway, all this time I never thought I'd be interested in yoga, and then gradually I started to understand that like it was you know like what I was doing or was related to what I was doing. There's even Tibetan yoga, and then um, some of my friends, I guess, had done yoga. So I started taking yoga at Golden Bridge in Hollywood, which I don't know if you remember Golden Bridge. It was a Kundalini yoga place
Okay.
that Gurmukh, who's kind of was a celebrity oriented teacher, or at least she had this, she was known to be like the teacher of like, I don't know, Cindy Crawford and Russell Brand and like some
Oh,
other.
wow. Okay.
Um, but yeah, I mean, the Kundalini yoga is a whole. I mean, we'll have whole episodes on that. I'm gonna have multiple episodes. I'm gonna have experts on because part of my mission for this place is to expose the Kundalini yoga bullshit around Yogi Bhajan. Kundalini is just a word. There's nothing wrong with Kundalini and yoga, but Kundalini
I was
yoga,
doing a lot of Kundalini exercises during the pandemic. Just like, I was like, there's nothing for me to do except for raise my vibration.
but you mean Yogi Bhajan stuff. Bhajan.
I don't know.
Everyone just calls it Kundalini yoga, and it's
I was
honestly
learning I
so
was attending online classes with Jai Dave.
anything with a name like that. Yeah, that's a Sikh name.
Well, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's
Um
the thing. People are like, "Oh, I like the yoga,"
yeah.
but the whole organization. Oh my god! If you knew, you would never.
Hmm.
The organization is so corrupt and terrible. Like the
But here's my
figurehead,
thing. Like just because it's kind of like religion, right? Like I cannot go to church and not subscribe to the religion, but if there are certain positive things that are in there, why wouldn't I use them if they can
because
help
you're
me?
reinforcing, you're sustaining, those type of institutions
I don't
present,
agree
and
with
you're not
that.
only that, you're sustaining their, uh, the parts of them that you don't like instead of challenging and questioning it and you know deciding not to go along with it. You're just going along with it because part of it you like, instead of finding something that you like the entire thing of. Like for instance, in this Kundalini
Well,
yoga
I
thing,
liked the entire
let's
thing
just
of
use this. Fine,
ballet.
you forced me to tell you all about it. It's darn
I
it.
didn't. I didn't even
No,
ask.
no, we'll just use this as an example, and I'll try to limit it to like 1 or 2 minutes here because I'm very quick with it. I've learned a lot about this. So there was this guy, Yogi Bhajan, right? It's not even his real name, but whatever. He came over here. He was a customs agent in Delhi. He came over to America like in the 60s or whatever. This is the founding figure of what they call Kundalini Yoga. So he was just a total con artist, jerk. I'll just get to the point. He raped women. Not only that, not only that, some of the worst things I've ever read in like court documents and things like that about what he did to these women. We're talking genital mutilation with his teeth, not just one, his all of his
Jesus.
secretaries. He would bite their their parts, and to the point when he would chew and chomp on it and generally mutilate them. And he was a billionaire. I mean, a
How
multi-millionaire. One of
how?
the
How did he
worst
become a
con
billionaire?
stories that has ever happened, and still to this day, people are in the yoga. Just the yoga is bullshit. So what all of this has been researched, and I mean, I'm not making this stuff up. So you can, what they talk about is this figure who I went on to learn a lot about. His name is Dhirendra Brahmachari, who there should be two documentaries made, one about Yogi Bhajan and another just about Dhirendra Brahmachari. Because in India, this guy was a mega star yogi. He was, like modern day, there's this guy, Swami Ramdev. There's, some yogis who are like nationally known. But he started like teaching this system called Shuskma Vyama, which is very heavy into what they call Bastrika breath or bellows breath, but Kundalini yoga people call it the breath of fire.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's very different than like most of the other yoga in this country was coming from Iyengar and from Krishnamacharya or Joyce. Iyengar or Joyce or Desigachar or even some Shivananda, but not that much. But there wasn't a lot of kind of esoteric, like alter your consciousness, feel high sort of yoga. And then so that's what Yogi Bhajan came over here offering, just part of that, just some little part with the breath and some other. He was not a good yogi. He never, there's no video of him doing any yoga. He never demonstrated any of the yoga, after he got into like, at least after a certain age. He really, like, most of the whole organization was just other people. But then it's just a lot of nonsense and made up things. There's one of the songs that they sing is like nursery rhyme for Sikhs. So that's the other thing. He was a Sikh. Do you know what a Sikh is? Sikhism?
I mean, I don't really know a lot about it
It's a
now.
whole religion. It's a whole religion. Like in India, there's multiple religions. There's, Hinduism, there's Buddhism, there's Jainism, there's a lot of Muslims. And then in the Punjab area, in the upper left, next to Pakistan or whatever, and they also wear the turbans, are the Punjabis, and they've got great music, by the way, now. Modern music, like mixed with like beats and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
um, and they're Sikhs. Their religion is Sikhs. They're not Hindus. So it's sort of like a warrior religion where they worship like these different guru and non-check and guru. I'm insulting people. If anyone actually is listening to this who's a Sikh, I have no idea. I'm sorry, but it's guru this and that, and so it's a whole. At least I know what it was. At least I know what it was. So it's a whole religion, and he was Sikh. So he mixed this Kundalini yoga, which he called, with Sikhism. And he also lied, like, about where it came from. It's a really long story. He even took like a group of students over there in 1968 and then like had a falling out with like, his teachers and stuff like that. But it's very corrupt. He's very corrupt. And a lot of people give it a pass because of the fashion, of like they're always fashionable with the conformity and like all the turbans and like guru this and that and what are like
Well,
the
I'm not like actively
I'm
pursuing a
I'm just saying
Kundalini lifestyle.
we shouldn't
Um,
platform it. I think as a yoga community, as a community, as a society, just like somehow Burkham is excommunicated. He didn't do anything even close to what Yogi Bhajan did, like for
wow.
real. And not only that, the organization that he founded is like some multi-million-dollar organization because they're also involved with Yogi Teas and a
Yeah.
call security, which is like a fucking security firm or something. So like provide like security to diplomats and like things like that
That's
with their.
weird.
It's really the whole thing is really weird, and there is supposedly, like the story has been sort of told. There was a Vice documentary that's on YouTube, and supposedly there's like a Netflix documentary coming in the works, but
Hmm.
somehow it's going to be exposed eventually, and it's a story that's waiting to be told.
Well, I'm still gonna do my little exercises.
But it's bullshit. Just doing Simon Says. Let me finish the thing about Dhirendra Brahmachari and what I've learned there.
It brings
'Cause this
energy into the
relates to the
heart, brings
Awoken
heat to
space,
the heart.
and then we'll ask you questions about your everything. But Dhirendra Brahmachari, right?
Yeah.
So he was a really powerful yogi, and 10 years ago I found this out. Like now people are just finding out. I actually researched this stuff probably like 10 years ago, and then I found out about like Dhirendra Brahmachari and Yogi Bhajan and all that stuff. But then I got his books way back then, and he's like the Rasputin of India. He was even rumored to have an affair with the prime minister, who was a woman, Indira Gandhi. He was like the personal yoga instructor for the kind of family in power or whatever, the Gandhi family, which is not connected to Gandhi. Actually, it's like different Gandhis. but for like, 30 years. It's a crazy long story. But the point is, he's got this Swiss German student, like his last Western student is named Reinhard Gammenthaler. And that's where I learned. Did I show you the Achagari breath? I don't think so.
I don't know.
Anyway, I've learned some real, like real Kundalini yoga or the real stuff. And actually, even the way that the breath is often taught in those Kundalini yoga as, Yogi Bhajan classes is I've always heard it as just, belly button to the navel or whatever and let the inhale come by itself. But you actually get a bigger effect if you take um, force on the inhale and exhale. So like instead of just anyway. So anyway, they're not even teaching it properly. And there's also a way more powerful breath called the Achagari breath, which is like vital to that system, which they don't teach at all, and just a lot of other things. So, like I said, part of my mission here is to expose that and stop having it be just conflated and platformed by all the yoga publications and communities. They're always like, oh, there's like, which type of yoga is for you? Ashtanga yoga. And so many of these yogas, honestly, are like, they found out that the leading figure was not so pure. Even Ashtanga yoga, Patabi Joyce, and then, John Friend with whatever that thing was. But the point is, yeah, if you want to do Breath of Fire and stuff like that, it's very, I mean, that's been done for thousands of years. But Yogi Bhajan is just Simon Says from a con man who was a really just terrible human being. And not only that, there's all this like terrible things that the organization did to like children who were like, they had a boarding school system in India. And then like the girls would be groomed to like work at his compound. And the whole thing is terrible. Okay, sorry.
My apologies. I am struggling with my audio situation over here. Um, hold on.
I want to give you my summation and opinion of
Okay, great.
what I think about your career, what you've told me, and then I can ask you some of these questions. I want to try these out because they seem good.
Okay.
To me, what it seems like happened, this is just how I would put it to someone else. But, I mean, you came to LA probably wanting to, like you said, get into music and do acting. And I think part of your dissatisfaction is you happen to get all caught up into the teen industry. I don't know if that was intentional or whatever, but the shows you were on, kind of ABC Family, like youth. I mean, I don't know what the audience was for that. It might, I don't know. But particularly, I mean, touring with Justin Bieber and everything. And then, I mean, you got older, and it's like, you need a second phase of the
Right.
career.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh no, I definitely had to
but I
grow
think you can
out
still have that, and
of
you
my
can still. And the thing is, your
adolescence.
your happiness shouldn't be dependent on anything, but if you're just happy with what you're doing, and it's
Right.
all about the story you tell yourself.
Totally.
And there's a lot of people who were in the entertainment industry and then get out of it, and they're less famous or they're not, but they're happier. So it's just about
Yeah.
being satisfied, and then you can always circle back if and then
Yeah.
but or whatever it's which is what you kind of sounds like you did. So
Yeah.
um
I mean, I kind of took like a break for, I mean, I was still in acting class whenever I was in Nashville, but for about 3 years when I was from 2020 to 2020, just recently, this past April, I was living in Nashville for 2 years and then New York for a year and doing nothing relating to being a performer. I was working in hospitality and did real estate in New York. But what was really good about sort of taking a wild left hand turn was I got to release the identity and release my attachment to the mindset that I had around who I was, around where I should be in my career, all these things. And also was able to like work on my codependency and grow out of the like adolescent avatar that I had been inhabiting while I was here. It didn't feel like I could grow at
Oh yeah.
all if I
Well,
were to stay here.
that's interesting to hear because that's one of my theories. So thank you for proving it. But,
What?
yeah, I think that so many of my friends, and just noticing even, famous people and whatever who are in the music industry, they get rewarded for a certain stage of their development as people. And a
Right.
lot of time it's a juvenile stage. I mean, it always is if we continue to learn and grow and,
And a
develop.
highly easily manipulative version of who we are. Like I didn't even realize how much of a people pleaser I was until I left and like got away from it. And living in New York for a year will make you a real person and will put everything into perspective because you just realize, well, for one thing, New Yorkers are just real. Um, but it's a totally different like way of being there than it is here, especially in Hollywood.
I think that, there's a difference between real and just like negative and
I
blunt
should
and
say
just
authentic.
like,
I should say authentic.
not like, I don't know. I much prefer the culture of Los Angeles. We're much more laid back and I think we're more real
I
in that.
agree. I do, but I'm also since I've been back, I've been not in the mix of Hollywood. I've been, in like the yoga
Hollywood's
community or the
different.
beach
Hollywood's
community.
mostly people from New York. It's mostly people who aren't even, you know, I the whole I don't know. There is this whole celebrity sort of Hollywood thing, which
But it's kind of also dispersing at this point. Like productions are moving away from Hollywood. Studios are thinking about moving their operations. So Hollywood really isn't, even close to what it was
but
pre-pandemic.
just
And I don't
this
think it'll ever go
egoic
back.
view of celebrity and people and some people are worth more than other people, just the whole sort of
Yeah, mentality.
Hollywood celebrity mentality that I think of people who live in LA, it's probably just like 1% of people who act like
Yeah.
that, who think like that, who are like that. But, the celebrities, it's half of the celebrities though, because they're all, and maybe yourself, you were caught up. I don't know. People get caught up from being an outsider for someone more in the music side or, whatever. I mean, the more image related
Yeah.
industries, um, I mean, there's just such grasping from the millions of people around the country to get into those image related industries and be elevated and,
Yeah.
get your face in front of everyone. And,
Yeah.
um,
It's a very like parasitic, vampiric world energy.
yeah.
So yoga has really helped me to ground and just come back to being human.
But at the same time, I find that LA is a place, where creative people have moved, for generations. I mean,
Hmm.
usually before there's that grasping, I mean, there's some like yourself, and me, and too, I did music before I moved here, and then I moved here to do music.
Yeah,
So, there's some artistic inclination or creative inclination,
totally.
but then you do want to be you want to get in front of people and you want to be on some level, I think, what's that word, your ego wants to be validated,
Hmm.
your opinion of
Yeah,
yourself, that your music's good or you're special or you're
right.
funny or you're beautiful. I mean, god, you see what it does to so many females. It
Oh yeah,
literally drives
I've been
females
there.
insane.
I've I've been there. I've had to dig myself out of really, really like the depths of hell mentally and spiritually. It's
But that's the
real.
thing. You just always just got to be positive because, um, you know, I'm sure there's many physically less conventionally blessed individuals who just happen to have a good perspective on life, or bubbly or happy, or on a and have a certain level of deep resiliency or spiritual or whatever. I mean, there's an inner light that um, isn't really correlated to physical appearance, or even anyone else's opinion. I mean, you don't need anything in life. I think I always say, it's everything should be conscious, and because you think it through, and it's like, oh yeah, I do want to eat, I do want to breathe, I do want to like get up today for these good reasons. But if it's not conscious, if it's not well thought out, like, um, I mean, yeah, you don't need it. So you don't need any level of success. You don't need anything, um, to be happy necessarily. If you've got, gratitude and just faith, and just enjoy it, just enjoy it. Take each step at, one step at a time. And everyone knows these things. So it's just,
Yeah, I will say that like I think I'm a lot happier. I mean, there were so many really tough things that I went through, that I'm not going to talk about here, but you know, yes, having a positive mindset is important, but I would say even probably more importantly than that is if you're in a really dark place and it doesn't feel like you can just be positive, like self-compassion is like the thing that ultimately got me through, like really listening to your body's need for rest and not and understanding that you can't do it and all the time, I should say, and that grief is a real thing that affects our lives, and it's okay to take time away and just be a human being and be fully in your experience and not always constantly be like chasing after the idea of what you think your life is supposed to look like in this moment.
absolutely. And especially when it's the natural process. I mean, you know self-compassion is definitely the thing. um I do think, you know being new in the now, having gratitude, there's ways to kind of get yourself out of a rut. And I don't think, we should always have the idea that I need to work through something, or I need to get out of a rut, like, after a week,
Well,
like,
sometimes it takes leaving an environment,
but you could also, yes.
leaving
um
relationships, like sometimes, like that's what I mean is it's not always just about a positive mindset. Sometimes you're surrounded by people who don't have your best interest at heart, or you're
but
in
you
an
shouldn't wait
environment
to
that
do those
isn't
things, I guess, is the point. Then
facilitate
it's
your
like, don't
growth.
wait to be happy. Don't wait to, you know if there's a there's a phrase which I think you'll like. Um, well, it's from this linebacker Ray Lewis. I always use it with karma, like related to karma, but he said, like, if something in your life needs changing, you better change it, or God's gonna change it, and
Yeah,
you're not gonna like the way that God changes it, so you better change it first.
right.
But it's
Yeah.
like karma, if you got to learn your lesson,
Well, it's taking
learn it.
responsibility for your
Like,
own.
don't wait till it gets worse or whatever. And the same
Yeah.
thing with just wallowing in depression or in the muck. I mean, if you can get out of it, if part of you knows better, part of you still sees the joy in life or whatever. I mean, listen to that voice, and don't just. I mean, there's the traditional idea of psychology, and working through your traumas and everything, and I'm sure there's some validity to that, but I was really taken back once when I took this class with this shamanistic teacher.
I
And
will just say, Jesse, that
you gotta
you've
go.
been blurry for like the last 30 minutes on my camera. I don't know
Oh
if your
no,
resolution is down, if you can see yourself.
why would that be happening?
Your connection might be bad. You might just want to like stop the recording and then start it again, or we can like close this window down and then come back to a new one. I do have to hop off in like 10 minutes, but if you want to like kind of like wrap
Yeah,
up,
no, let's wrap it up somehow. Why
um,
not try my questions? Give me 15 minutes or 12 minutes. I don't know. I don't know. How do I make myself not blurry though?
I don't know. We might have to just like start it over.
Let me see if I stop the video.
Stop the. Oh yeah, try. There you are. Okay, now you're clear. All right,
All right then.
great.
All right, we've been talking with Allie Gonino, part one. Um, all right, so do you want to? Can I ask some of these questions?
Yeah, shoot.
All right, so I have questions here for our podcast guest. What color is your skin really?
Right now, it is a light tan.
I mean, that was kind of just
It's
random.
olive, a light olive.
What age should people be able to vote at?
To what?
To vote.
To vote. I feel like 18 makes sense. I feel like that's.
All right.
I feel like old people should be cut off at a certain point. Like you're not even going to be around to experience the
But they're the
benefits.
most wise. They've seen the most.
Are they wise
You think they
or
should have to take
senile?
maybe they should have to take a test.
Yeah.
Maybe people should have to take a test to see if they I mean, if
But
someone
what
knows
does that
nothing
even
about the
mean?
issues at all,
Yeah.
how did birth order affect your development?
Oh, I was adored because I was last in the lineup. I'm the baby. After after my siblings were like much older, so they really treated me like their baby rather than their sibling.
Well, that was the
So I
question
really
before that. Siblings? Question mark. So
yes,
what is your sibling situation?
I have only half siblings, one brother and two sisters, and they're older, like much older than I am.
What
Eight nieces and nephews.
what was your birth like?
My birth,
Yes.
I actually remember my birth, and
Doesn't surprise
I've 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 recounted this memory to my parents, and they were like, "Yeah, that's pretty much what it was." Um, but I didn't cry when I came out. Yeah, I wasn't like a screamer when I came out. I was like, you know, like blinded by the lights and like was struggling to open my eyes, and I was just going like, "Ooh, ooh," like
me.
just kept saying like, "Ooh," which is kind of how I feel now. I'm just constantly like, "Ooh, earth, ooh, ooh,"
Mhm. Well, that
you
makes a
know?
lot of sense because, you know, as we know from psychology, your earliest experiences are formative, the most formative. So, and
You
your
know?
birth experience in particular is really important in your development, which is partially why that question's in there. But you described it to your parents like that, and they're
Yeah,
like,
I
"Yeah, that's what happened." You were
well
like,
no, they no, they told me that I was doing that and not
"Oh,
crying, but I said how I recounted it was I was like, well, they had like, you know, those big like giant white lights on the ceiling, and then the door was over here and the bed was over here. And they were like, yeah, that's correct. It's like
freaky."
the bed was this way, door was on the left side if you're facing, you know, that way, but on the right side if you're
And
facing.
were you happy to be out of the womb, or you were like, "Put me back"?
No, good God. No, I was 2 weeks late. So I was like, I don't really
No,
just
the
keep me
womb
in
is
here.
good stuff. I mean, that's
It's
all in
great.
this all in this psychological theory too. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
you're
Safe,
perfect temperature,
warm.
you know, yeah, it's got food, you know, you're nourished, you know, think of how much we like talking to our mom now. You're like literally like inside your mom, you know, the whole time and just like it's literally the archetype of heaven. That's what they say. It goes from heaven and then the labor
Hell.
experience is hell, right? Because everything you've ever known is like just pushing you out. But then they don't say that life is hell. They say that the labor is the hell part. And then you fight
Interesting.
back and it's like the
But
hero's
that's also
journey.
that's
And then
kind
you're
of like
released into the world.
that's a metaphor for life because life isn't hell, but there are moments, there are tunnels in
That's
hell. I mean,
exactly
tunnels
why
in life that feel
that
like hell.
this is all Stanislav Grof's work. which is I was talking about this with someone earlier.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's exactly that's why this your imprint, your impressions in the those four stages of development of birth
Mm-hmm.
do repeat throughout your entire life. They say some people who
Interesting.
are, just super happy people had a big deep impression in the heaven stage. Some people are striving, they're fighting all the time. They, are in the third stage. And then some people like dark people or whatever, people who like, horror movies or whatever, they had too much of an experience of the labor stage. But anyway,
Well,
even like
also,
your
yeah,
mom, if she's scared of a thunderstorm, or if she's like enjoys it, and she's dancing in the rain, that all goes straight into like your nervous system and
yeah.
uh,
So I mean, talk to women who were abused or like while they were pregnant, like the baby will carry that trauma.
oh yeah, totally. I mean, that's an extreme sad example of it,
Yeah.
but even everything. Just it's as subtle as you can probably imagine. What movies the mother's watching and how she's feeling listening to the music, and it's all
Hmm.
somehow going into that consciousness of the
Yeah.
baby in the womb.
It's all
And
connected.
then I think it's like the sort of thing where you don't really feel your body. It's like sensory deprivation thing. So you're just like consciousness in there.
Floating in water.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
What is your favorite cartoon characters?
Cartoon characters. Wow. I mean, I loved the Rugrats growing up. Um, Also love Pocahontas, even though that story is not historically accurate.
It's not.
No, not even close. Um,
Wasn't
who
it
else?
a beautiful love story between Pocahontas and John Smith?
Exactly the opposite of what it was. A genocidal guy, dude.
Should we lie to kids about the Easter Bunny, Santa, and the Tooth Fairy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we? I don't know. I don't know about should, but I think it's okay that we make those things up. Also, you're gonna have to put like a warning on this episode if you keep that question in there.
What?
People can't listen to this with that question if they're with their kids.
What?
You know what I mean?
You're saying if a kid is listening to this episode,
Yeah.
that well, I've just ruined. But then maybe I mean, my answer is I think we should not lie to kids personally.
Yeah, but you don't get to decide that for other people's children. So
Well, we
just
shall.
put a little warning
All right.
at the beginning of the episode.
Yes. Oh, we'll have to stop it and put a warning. We're about to ruin the Easter Bunny, Santa, and the Tooth Fairy for your children if you continue. All right, you didn't want to rename the sun the other day, but rename America.
Rename America. Oh God. I would probably name it after one of the indigenous tribes.
Pocahontas.
I wouldn't rename it Pocahontas, but I
It's
would
too
rename it
individual.
like
It's too like one
Cherokee.
person.
I mean, I would maybe Cherokee because I am Cherokee, but yeah, I'd probably rename it after an indigenous or yeah, or like the United Tribes of something. And then each state could be a different indigenous tribe.
What will the future be like?
Oh, uh, I would love to see a future where we return to like sailing more, being active on the seas to
Like Waterworld. with Kevin Costner.
I never saw that, so I can't say
Don't
100% sure.
don't.
But just
I was
more
so
active.
excited for that movie. On a side note, as a kid watching the trailers, me
Mhm.
and my friend would like we couldn't wait for Waterworld. That it was
I've
so.
only experienced the Universal Studios display
It's probably
show.
way better.
It was pretty cool, but it also isn't there also like war, so not that part. But yeah, I would like to see us return to some more primitive ways of existing
It
to
sounds a
not
lot like
only
Waterworld. You should see that movie.
I'll watch it. And like riding horses to get places, just kind of incorporating some non-climate change inducing methods of existing and getting things done. I also think life would be more fun. I think we would strengthen our communities and not running life off of like a capitalistic system. I think we would have enriched lives, more enriched lives.
And where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Hopefully, a successful business owner. I hope to be actively uh, writing screenplays, maybe acting here and there in a movie or television show, still making and playing music. Um, and raising a family.
All right, three more. Which of our scientific theories do you suspect are incorrect?
I don't really know a lot of scientific theories.
Where are we?
Where are we? Or when are we? Where are we? In relation to what?
Just where are we? I've been wondering. I thought maybe you knew.
I don't, I mean, we're in state of California. We're in
But
Southern
in
California.
the in the most broadest sense.
No, you have to get more specific than that.
I
I
mean, in the
can't.
broadest sense, where are we? What's going on here?
We are in space.
But that's just like a human word.
What kind of word are you looking for?
I don't know, more so like pointing to an understand. I don't know, something like a
But
like
what are you, but I can't answer a general question specifically. You have
well,
to ask a specific question to get a specific answer.
define
So
the
do you
word.
mean, or we can move on, sure.
We can keep going. What you know, like I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. You could say space.
I
You could
did say
say,
space, and then you said that
yeah.
that's as a human.
Well, I'm just, I'm just questioning, trying to
Where
get even
are
more of a
we?
refined understanding. But you could say, I mean, I'm saying it's not the right answer. That's not the fine. Any word you say, like that's again, it goes to our next question. Define the word infinite.
Eternal. In eternal and limitless.
Well, I think that's probably the answer to the where we are. Any word you put on it, it's just going to limit it. So if nature is really limitless, then
That's why
we're
my first question was in relation to what? But
mm,
yes, from one perspective, where we are is infinite.
reality in relation to reality.
But what is reality? Which reality and whose reality?
That's why you're on this podcast to tell us.
I can only speak for my own reality.
Okay, well, that's good ending. But,
Okay.
so okay, so now what do I do? Like if I was
Well,
talking
I
to
would do like
someone,
a little sign off, like, thanks, Allie, a little like wrap it up moment, a little button.
This has been Allie Gonino. This
Great.
has been Allie Gonino signing off.
Signing off.
I don't think I honestly let me do another voice because I'm gonna cut that out. That was too. I'm gonna listen to that and be like, what the heck's wrong with that guy? This has been Ali Canino.
That sounded very scary and ominous.
That's like my Batman voice. I thought maybe Batman. I'm not. I can't. Sometimes I can do it better. Anyway, this is all going to be cut out. This will be all cut out, hopefully. Um, we'll just get when we get to the part. Let me just try my normal voice. This has been Ali Gunino. All right. Okay.
Stop recording.
Stop recording.